Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Today I will be doing the first video in my next Plastic Models for Beginners series. Now this one is going to be a little bit simpler than the last one, which was building models from a photograph. This one's going to be more of a back to basics type build with adding some aftermarket accessories. It's going to be real simple stuff. I just want to do it just to get kind of, as I said, get back to basics for anybody that watches my channel and would like something like this. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the kit that's going to be featured in this series. And here's the kit. Tamiya's 1/35 scale US 2.5 ton 6x6 cargo truck. Kit number 35218. I'm going to be using this for the basis of the kit. And then I have two add-on accessories to go with it. One that's made by Tamiya, and one that is made by Value Gear. So I'll get into those in a little bit. But before I dig into the box here and take a look at the contents and do a quick review, I want to thank Ben Brandis, my friend from back east here in the United States, for sending this kit to me. We had a conversation one time online via Messenger or something like that, and he had asked about if I'd ever built one of these, and I said no, I hadn't, because I just haven't. It's a kit I've always wanted to build, but I've just never had the opportunity. It's never been readily available, and it's not something I have thought to order because of all the other millions of kits that are out there. So he had built it and he really enjoyed it, so he sent it to me to do a build. So Ben, this build on the 2.5 ton 6x6 cargo truck is dedicated to you, my friend, and I want to thank you again for sending this kit to me. So let's take a look and see what is in the box and take a look at the accessories. Alright, first up, let's take a look at the instructions. Typical Tamiya instructions. Front page has information in Japanese. Inside has English, German, and French information pertaining to this vehicle, and shows some various configurations the truck came in. Talks a little bit about where it was deployed, stuff like that. So, typical stuff, very informative kind of thing. I haven't read it yet, but I plan on reading it here in a little while. But then inside, tools, the paint you'll need, etc. And then it's on to step one, which is working on the front end of the frame, including the winch spool. And then it goes on to two, which is an engine, which is nice that it does have kind of a rudimentary engine. And from what I've read, it is very basic, but it could be detailed quite easily if you wanted to have the front of the vehicle opened up, say for a maintenance type diorama or just to show it off, whatever. Then step three is attaching the engine to the framework. Now here's one thing that I want to make note of on Tamiya instructions. It shows these two parts here, A5, which are hooks that fit onto the bumper and kind of fit between the bumper and the framework of the chassis here. Now, there are some manufacturers, and I'm going to be blunt, Dragon is one of them, that stuff like this can sometimes be very vague in its location. One doesn't necessarily need locating pins or markings all the time to see where something goes, but good illustrations go a long way to helping in putting the part where it belongs. And in this case here, this is where I think Tamiya does a great job with their instructions. I mean, their instructions are easy to follow as it is, but stuff like this where it shows it goes in these two locations here, which is great, but it also gives you this overhead view showing the angle in which they're supposed to be attached. So for some people it might be kind of a minor thing, but for those that are just getting into modeling, it sure helps alleviate some of the frustrations that a new modeler might come across. So, you know, thumbs up to Tamiya for doing that. And that's why I like doing these type of kits for my beginner series, because the assembly is pretty straightforward and easy to get through due to clear instructions and good fit of parts. So enough of that. So then on to step 4 is the suspension components and the exhaust components. Also, looks like the drive shaft to power the winch on the front of the vehicle. Then we have the fuel tank, transfer case, and the brake drums in step 5. That's something else that's kind of nice about Tamiya, and you know, in part it has to do with Tamiya generally has a much lower parts count than, say, Dragon or even Academy or some places like that. So they're able to break down the instructions into smaller segments. So, you know, you've got very few parts in a section to make a sub-assembly before you move on to the next section. Some instructions can have just tons of stuff going on, and it's not that bad, but it can get not really confusing, but sometimes you might miss parts as you're going along, because there's just so much going on in the illustration and on a particular step. So another props to Tamiya's instructions. Then you attach the, as they call it here, the propeller shaft, the drive shaft to the axles, and then more of the suspension components. Then it's on to step 8, which is the wheels. Then step 9, fixing the spare and the wheels to the chassis of the vehicle, as well as the fuel tanks. Then we get into the cab. Step 10 starts with the cab, attaching the seats to the framework and attaching that to the floorboard of the cab, all the controls, and the steering wheel. Then step 11, it's putting the firewall in and the figure. Step 12 is more of the cab, attaching the side walls of the cab, the back, the radiator, and the rifles in their holders, and the dashboard. And the dashboard is shown here, and it's nice because they include decals for the dashboard, which is kind of nice. You don't have to just rely on some vague painting to make it look like something, so that's kind of nice. Then we have the fenders, headlights, the hood or bonnet, depending on what part of the world you're from, the louvered sides, and the brush guard. And then this railing back here at the back of the cab. Then we have windshield wipers. Those are windshield wiper motors, actually. The windshield wipers are molded on, and then these brackets here. And then the canvas cover, rear view mirror, and that, whatever that is. I'm going to talk more about the canvas cover here in a little bit. Then we have the cargo bed. We've got the side panels, the actual bed, attaching the tailgate, the side, or the tailgate, the headache board, and the sideboards. And then attaching more of the framework and mud flaps underneath the bottom of the cargo bed, as well as putting together the Pioneer tools down here and the fuel cans. And then you have step 18, which is pretty much finishing it off, putting the cargo bed, the cab, onto the chassis, and then determining if you want to use the cover, the bows for the canvas cover, if you want to put them across the back, or if you want to stack them in their stowed position right here. And that's the instructions. So the next part of the instructions is the painting guide here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 4 different schemes that can be used. So I'll take a look at those and determine which one I want to use. There's February 45 Belgium, July 44 Normandy, 3886 Transportation Corps Truck Company, Breadball Express, and 10th Armored Division. So I'll just need to determine which one I want to use as to which markings I'm going to put on there. So the first bit of plastic we have on the kit here are the clear parts. We've got the 2 windshield parts and the headlight lenses. Alright, so here is sprue A, and there's 2 of these, which mainly entails the wheels, some of the suspension components, a couple of musette bags, a seat, and the fuel cans. Now there's 2 types of jerry can going on here. There's one that's molded onto a holder bracket type thing, and then there's the 2-piece with the handle over here, this handle for both of them. Detail's kind of soft on these. The filler caps are very plain. So again, I'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm not going to actually use these in the kit. Brush guard. The seat has some nice texture to it to simulate canvas. Got the mud flaps. So typical Tamiya molding. Shouldn't be any problems there. Then we have sprue B, one of these, and this is the front fenders and the running boards, radiator, fuel tank, the chassis there, more small suspension parts, the drivetrain is here, the engine block, brake drums, differential, those aren't brake drums, I'm sorry, those are part of the differential housings, more parts of the engine there. Again, you know, it's really good detail. The engine, very rudimentary, not the best detail in the world compared to some, but it does simulate an engine, and as I said, it could be detailed out if one wanted to do that. So that's sprue B. Sprue C, we have cargo bed parts. This is the floor, the sides, the headache board. I mean, that's called a headache board in some circles. It's basically, it's the front of the cab, and if something flies forward, it hits this instead of going into the back of the cab. Steering wheel, the bumper, looks like brakes, transfer case levers, gear shift levers, Pioneer tools, shovel. This one here has the pick handle and an axe, and then the tailgate. And all these parts are very nice. Now, one thing that I did note on some of the reviews is there are ejector pin marks. Now, these are on the bottom of the cargo bed, so that's not a big deal. You're not going to see those underneath, so that's no big thing. The headache board, those, it looks like that would be between possibly that might be exposed to the bed area, as well as these very tiny ones here. You can see here and here all the way across these boards. Now, these boards have some nice wood texture to it, so they'll be nice to paint up. So cleaning these up on the inside of the bed would be kind of tough without destroying that detail. And you probably could rescribe it with a really sharp instrument, whether it be a knife or a needle or something like that. But since there's going to be cargo in this bed, it won't be that big a deal. And you know, once it's painted and weathered, at the angle one would actually view it, you might not even see them because they are very faint, unless you're looking dead on at them, or you get some light reflecting off that little round spot. So not that big a deal. And I'll show how we're going to handle that later anyway. And then sprue D, which is the sides of the cab, the sides of the engine cover area with louvers, the firewall, dashboard, the windshield with the wiper blades, or with the wiper arms molded on, floor of the cab, the hood slash bonnet, the back of the cab, and the canvas cover. Now the canvas cover looks pretty good. It's got some nice texture going on, wrinkling and so on, and it's a little rough to the touch, so it'll probably weather up really well. But the one thing that can be kind of funky about these vehicles, when you have these molded covers, is they're generally on the sides, they're really angular. You can see here that it's just perfectly straight there, so it wouldn't really look that realistic. So it might be something to consider trying to detail or replace. But again, I'll get back to this whenever I get to the accessory set, because I'm not actually going to be using this on the kit. And then there's a figure, and the figure is pretty decently detailed. Good enough that especially sitting in the cab, you're not going to be able to really scrutinize him. But one thing to note is our little truck driver here seems to be quite the happy dude, because he's got quite a smile on his face. So obviously he's either headed back to the rear, or he just hasn't seen the front yet. And the arms for the figure. So that pretty much takes care of the sprues for the kit. So let's take a look at the extras that I've got to use with this kit. As a quick aside here, whenever Ben sent me the kit, he had this enclosed in there, inside the box. And he was saying that there's a couple of different add-ons for this kit. They're actually made by Tamiya. There's the 2.5 ton 6x6 cargo truck accessory parts set, and then the Allied Vehicles accessory set. Now this set here I actually bought a year or two ago for another project, so I've got a lot of these parts here, and some of them have made it onto other kits, as well as the last project for beginners, which was the M10 tank destroyer by Tamiya. I used some of the musette bags and duffel bags and tarps and stuff on that vehicle, so it's not complete, but I opted not to use this set. I'm going to use something else, but I did get this one. So let's take a look at the contents of that box. Okay, here's the box, and what comes with the set are some stowage brackets for the front. Looks like a hook here for the winch, a separately molded fuel can holder for the running board, soft doors. They're like made out of canvas, but they enclose the cab for winter use, and then the machine gun mount for the top with an M250 caliber. Here's basically what it looks like. And it's got rolled up canvas parts. To show what has happened to the top cover. So it looks like a nice set, and this is what is actually in the box. One sprue, sprue A. So we've got these part of the bracket for the front here, here, and here for the stowing the cargo in the front, which looks like fuel cans and stuff. Then we have the doors, which have some nice canvas detail on it, textured, wrinkled, so it looks really good. It'll look really good weathered. The hooks, parts of the ammo can, the mounts for the machine gun ring, the canvas the canvas cover rolled up in the back on a bracket, and then a piece of canvas rolled up that attaches to the windshield, and a little puppy dog. Isn't that sweet? I may use that dog. He looks pretty finely molded. But anyway, that's what comes in kit number 35231, cargo truck accessory part set. Almost forgot to add, there is another sprue. This comes, it will look familiar to a lot of people because this comes with a lot of the late 90s and even into the 2000s Tamiya kits, US kits. This is a separate sprue that has ammo can, the M250 caliber, the handle for it, and different types of mounting points. So that comes with the cargo set as well. The next item I got, and I ordered this direct from the manufacturer, Value Gear. Allied World War II truckloads, 1/35th scale model building details. And this particular one is UST-01, Allied truckload set number 1, 2.5 ton. The only Value Gear details I've used in the past were some sandbags that I used on the M10 tank destroyer, and these are they. And I like the detail of it. Their prices are very reasonable, so I thought I would give it a shot for this kit. And part of the reason I did is I like that it's molded in big chunks, so you can put a bunch of stuff into the bed of the vehicle and not a bunch of separate parts boxes and just a ton of parts. I've seen some of this stuff painted up, I'm sure many of you have, and it paints up really well. Very nicely molded. I looked through them briefly and I didn't find any voids from the molding process, which sometimes happens with resin accessories. These are nicely molded. As you can see here, the musette bags, there's two of them molded together. Nice strap detail, seam detail. Same here, boxes with rope handles. Nice detail on the ropes. A couple of rolled up tarps. This one I really like. It's 3 fuel drums. Obviously seen some wear and tear, so these will be nice to weather up and do a lot of like hardcore chipping on, because obviously these have seen some use. And it's covered with this nice tarp, which has some really nice detail, texture, with assorted stuff sprinkled on top. So really nice stuff, very nicely molded, really good prices. And the nice thing about it is even though it's, you know, on here there's 3 different load sets, but if you were to get the 3 different load sets and mix and match parts, you know, you could come up with all kinds of different configurations to add variety. So you could use these sets, you know, you could buy a number of these sets, mix and match them, and just do tons of vehicles with them. So, you know, if you ever get if you haven't yet, if you ever get a chance, order some of this Value Gear stuff. It's really nice. It'll be a lot of fun, I think, to paint it and stick it in the back of the truck to really make the truck look like it's doing something. And in addition to that, this was also thrown in the box. Now I don't know if this is included with this or if it's just like something the Value Gear people threw in, but again, it's some really nice stuff. Here's some ammo cans, there's musette bags, rolled up tarps, tarps stacked together with ammo cans in between. You got some tarp action here with musette bag on top. There's a box with a tarp or ground cloth or something attached to it. Here's a musette bag with a helmet on top. There's some nice detail on that helmet that looks like you know, camouflage netting. Just really good stuff. So again, I think it's great value for what you get, hence the term Value Gear, I guess. And I think it'll really add to this kit. So the last thing that I'll show you here are the decals, and these are typical Tamiya decals, printed in Japan, 1997 Tamiya, and they look pretty good. You know, they are kind of thickish compared to some brands of decals, but it's a flat finish, and if you apply these and then put a clear coat on your model, it kind of helps blend those edges a bit so you don't get such stark, you know, edges when you start doing weathering. But there's enough stuff here for 4 different vehicles, I guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, well, maybe 5 vehicles, I don't know. But anyway, that's the decals. They look pretty good. Dashboard decals, so that'll help really liven it up. So, and that's basically the contents of the box. So that is the kit and accessories I'm going to use for my next Plastic Models for Beginners series. So stay tuned. This is just kind of an introduction and a review. So here in a little while I'll be actually getting going on the kit, and my plan is to do it step by step. Depending on the complexity of the steps, I may do 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 steps in a video. I'll try and keep it as concise and clear as I can without stretching it out too long. And I may just be building and talking about what I'm doing, and then if I run across something that I need to, you know, expound on, I'll do so. But again, this is kind of a back to basics kind of thing for the beginning modelers, but with the added accessory stuff that doesn't come in the box. So this one won't be a complete out of the box build, but it'll be with ready-made accessories, one of them actually made by the manufacturer, Tamiya. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. Any suggestions? If you've built this kit, let me know if there's anything I should watch out for, or tell me about your experience. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.